All right, this is the presentation on Chapter 3, Level 1 with Kaitlin Murico,
Sierra Marr, and McMillin.
First, we're going to be talking about variations in students' backgrounds. There are two different types of students at this level, which is unique, more unique, I would say, than any other level because it's such a varied difference. The first type of student is a pre-literate student. That's a student who has no formal education and underdeveloped first language literacy. So even in their first language, they're not accustomed to holding a pencil or reading a book, which is why I put the funny graphic of the old man holding the book upside down. The second type of student in this CELT is the literacy in the first language. So they might be grade level proficient in their first language, but they still don't have the English skills to get them on the academic track in English. So the best practices for pre-literate students are rooted in initial early literacy development. So it has to be sensitive to the needs of the culture and the linguistically diverse learners. However, the second type of student, which does have literacy skills in their first language, those language skills need to be treated as an asset, as we are all very well aware of. And you can draw upon those skills that they have in their first language in order to transfer and apply those previously developed skills to learning English, reading, and writing.
Level 1 student descriptors are when students come with little to no English proficiency. They're kind of in a state of shock when they first enter a U.S. classroom because it is vastly different from what they are used to. Newcoming students are unclear about what to expect and how to behave in their new environment, and tend to copy the conduct of native English speakers. Newcomers display predictable characteristics of the typical language acquisition, and these behaviors may be interpreted by some educators as indicative of inappropriate attitudes, learning difficulties, or cognitive deficits. However, these children need to have advocates who understand both the language acquisition process and the cultural factors that impact each student's integration into the classroom. Starting with listening, Level 1 students will be more observant, being active listeners in their environment, and will begin to recognize common words and phrases when supported by context. They will need frequent rewording along with paraphrasing when being spoken to. Students will start to develop awareness of the sound system of English. In speaking, Level 1 students will most likely be more quiet and even silent in terms of talking. When they do speak, they will repeat the words and phrases they have begun to memorize from listening. They will use nonverbal cues to support their attempts at communication, and they will start to produce the range of sounds of English. Students will mostly depend on visual supports like pictures, graphic organizers, or icons when it comes to reading in order to understand meaning of the text. If they were at an age where they could read in their primary language, they may attempt to transfer those previous rules and skills to English when given a lot of visual support. Students have yet to have had any previous literacy teaching and can still begin to develop reading skills in English when provided with plenty of effective and relevant visual supports. When writing, Level 1 students will draw out pictures to express themselves or convey meaning instead of writing full sentences. They will copy written texts, letters, words, and phrases to practice their skills and to convey meaning when the student does attempt to write on their own. Words are spelled in a very introductory or basic phonetic way.
Differentiation for Level 1 students. In Chapter 3, it goes over differentiation in general, and it's worth mentioning that the standards-based content should remain intact. At whichever grade level you're at, the standards are the content that should be taught to the child. So it's important to remember that the language-based expectations, based on what we see with students at different levels, and the assignment and assessment strategies are the things that we're going to differentiate. At Level 1, as Sierra mentioned, We know that students are more likely to just be copying simple words and phrases in writing. We shouldn't really be expecting them to produce their own. And additional supports are pictorial, so photographs of anything that you can possibly imagine. Photographs are very helpful. Realia, so tangible, physical aspects or supports that they can look at and relate to the words that we are speaking and writing. And then supplementary think alouds. So it mentioned in the example in this chapter that carries on throughout the rest of the chapters, writing a set of instructions. So the picture that I have here is the steps necessary for making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So pictures like that with supplementary think alouds, either just with the child or with a small group that you pull, are very helpful at level 1.
Assignment strategies. Explicit instruction and
assessment first. Differentiation. Okay, assessment first.
Explicit instruction and inclusion are crucial to English language learners' success. Assignments need to align with content and format while allowing students to participate using their skills and strengths. The focus should be on what students can do, including the usage of their native language. Use visual supports when possible. Assessment strategies. Assess for comprehension and allow students to express themselves orally, pictorially, and physically, as well as in their first language. Differentiation is essential. Do not expect students to give standard English language responses. Allow drawing, copying, and early letter production, and have realistic expectations of student output. Instructional strategies. Hands-on experiences and other nonverbal forms of communication increase comprehension. Teachers should model and consistently use simplified and repetitive language and allow for ample wait time. Participation can be increased by allowing students to respond nonverbally. Focus should be on content, not students' modes of expression. Explicitly teach dynamic awareness, phonics, and concepts of print. It is crucial that teachers examine their own biases, learn about students' backgrounds, determine students' instructional levels, and differentiate accordingly.
So for our discussion board questions, we want to know which scaffolds and supports for level 1 students would be especially useful for students whose primary language is English. Think about the universal design for instruction, and have you ever used any of those instructional strategies in your current teaching placement? Our second question is, why is it important to utilize a student's first language as an asset? Please describe one way you can build on a student's first language. We're really interested to see what all of our peers come up with. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you.